Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, having trained more than 24,000 pets, helping you and your fur babies thrive. Live in studio, it's Pet Talk Today with Will Bangura, answering your pet behavior and training questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host and favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Good Saturday morning. It's February 6th. Thanks for tuning in and letting us be part of your Saturday morning. I'm Will Bangura, and you're listening to Pet Talk Today on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX, where we take your calls and answer your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Do you have a crazy cat or an out-of-control dog that desperately needs some training and behavior help? Are you fed up with your pet just not listening? Maybe you've got a bird that's bonkers, a rabbit with bad habits, or no matter what the problem is. That's what we do here on Pet Talk Today. I'm here to help you deal with all of your pet behavior problems. Call me right now and learn how to correct those unwanted behaviors. Pick up your phone, give me a call. If you're in Phoenix or the surrounding area, the number to call is 602-277-5369, 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of Phoenix, you can call me toll free at 866-536-1100. I hope everyone's having a great start to your weekend, and in just a couple minutes, and we'll be going to the phones and taking your pet behavior and training questions and help you put an end to those frustrating, unwanted behaviors. If you've been a listener of Pet Talk Today, you know that we also have a podcast that you can listen to weekly. If you happen to miss any of our live shows, you can go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the Pet Talk Today podcast and never miss a show. Also, please, if you subscribe to our podcast and you like it, give us a review. The more reviews that we get on Pet Talk Today, Apple Podcasts, the Hype Podcast, and that means that we're able to help more pet owners with their pet behavior problems. So please visit the Apple Podcast and subscribe today. We're heard in about, I think right now 50 different countries we get. That's somehow how Apple decides how high you're going to rank in those podcasts. And this is my labor of love, to be able to give back to you and to help you with all of your pet behavior problems. As I said, we'll be taking calls in just a few minutes. You can call and reach me at 602-277-5369, 602-277-KFNX. But first, it's time for Pet Talk News. This week in Pet Talk News, a team of psychologists at the universities of Sussex and Portsmouth have built rapport with a cat by using an eye-narrowing technique with them. This eye-narrowing action by humans generates something popularly known as a cat smile, the so-called slow blink, and seems to make the human more attractive to the cat. Eye-narrowing movements in cats have some parallels with the genuine smile in humans, as well as eye-narrowing movements given in positive situations in some other species. Taken together, the study shows that provide a form of positive communication between cats and humans. The study found cats were more likely to slow blink at their owners if their owner had slow blinked at them, compared to when the owner was present in the room but not delivering a slow blink stimulus. Cats were more likely to slow blink when unfamiliar experimenters slow blinked at them, compared to when they had maintained a neutral expression. Cats preferred to approach an experimenter after they had slow blinked at the cat than if they had maintained a neutral expression. The psychology of cats hasn't been studied as extensively as dogs, but what is already known includes that cats have been shown to attract and manipulate human attention effectively through solicitation purring, that cats have discriminating their name from other words even when unfamiliar humans are calling, and that cats may be sensitive to human emotional cues and will rub or butt their head against an owner who feels sad. In our second story, humans, followed by ferrets and to a lesser extent cats, civets, and dogs, are the most susceptible animals to SARS-CoV-2 infection. According to an analysis of 10 different species carried out by researchers at the Center for Genomic Regulation based in Barcelona. The findings found that ducks, rats, mice, pigs, and chickens had lower or no susceptibility to infection compared to humans. Knowing which animals are susceptible to SARS-CoV-2 helps to prevent building up animal reservoirs from which the coronavirus can reemerge at a later date, say researchers. Our findings offer a clue why minks, which are closely related to the ferret, are being infected by the disease, which is probably made worse by their packed living conditions and close contact with human workers. Though we also find a potential susceptibility to infection by cats, they don't coexist with humans in the same conditions as other animals, which may explain why so far there are no known cases of people being infected by their pets, say researchers. 10 species were studied. 5 species, humans, cats, ferrets, civets, and dogs, have had documented cases of infection by SARS-CoV-2, but there are no known reports of infection in the other 5 species, mice, rats, pigs, chickens, and ducks. Humans, chickens, and ducks have the highest genetic adaptation index, while the other species are worse adapted. Understanding SARS-CoV-2 infection across different species can better inform public health measures, helping reduce human contact with other susceptible animals and avoiding the potential prolongment of the COVID-19 pandemic. In our last article for today, Freddie, a Great Dane celebrated by Guinness World Records as the tallest dog in the world, I'm sorry to say, has died. The pooch, who lived in Essex, England with his owner Claire Stoneman, measured 3 feet and 4 inches from foot to withers, or the highest spot on a dog's back. When standing, he towered over people at a massive 7 feet 5.5 inches tall. Height-wise, Freddie stood somewhere in between NBA greats LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal. The dog lived to be 8.5 years old. Most Great Danes live between 8 and 10 years, according to the American Kennel Club. I'm Will Bangura. I'm your host, and you are listening to Pet Talk Today on 1100 KFNX, where we take your calls and answer your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. We need to go ahead and take a quick break so that we can hear from our sponsors. But when we come back, I will be taking your calls. You can reach us if you're in Phoenix at 602-277-5369. That's 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of Phoenix, call toll free at 866-536-1100. If you've got a dog or a cat or any other pet, we're here to help you, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, sharing funny tales about your four-legged fur babies, answering questions, some even ridiculous, and taking your calls. It's Pet Talk Today with your host, Will Bangura. To have your questions answered or to comment on today's show, call the KFNX listener line at 602-277-5369. 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of Phoenix, call toll free 866-536-1100. Now, back to Pet Talk Today with your host and everyone's favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining us, I'm Will Bangura, and you're listening to Pet Talk Today on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX, where we take your calls and answer your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Do you have a crazy cat or an out-of-control dog that desperately needs some training and behavior help? Are you fed up with your pet just not listening? Maybe you've got a bird that's bonkers, a rabbit with bad habits, or a temperamental turtle. Maybe you've got a dominant dachshund. Maybe you've got a Pomeranian with a potty training problem. It doesn't matter what the problem is. That's what we do here on Pet Talk Today. I'm here to help you deal with all of your pet behavior problems. Call me right now and learn how to correct those unwanted behaviors once and for all. Pick up your phone. Give me a call. If you're in Phoenix or the surrounding area, the number to call is 602-277-5369. That number is 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of Phoenix, you can call me toll free at 866-536-1100. I believe we've got a caller on the line. I think we've got Kathy in Paradise Valley. Kathy, welcome to Pet Talk today. How can we help you?
Hi, Tim. Thank you for taking my call. I have an adorable Cavapoo who is 18 months old. He's very sweet and affectionate, but we have a real problem with his barking. And mostly when he goes outside, if he hears a dog barking far away, he barks nonstop. Or when the TV is on, if there's any animal or cartoon that comes up, he goes crazy, starts lunging at the TV, and will not stop barking. So, I don't know if I need tranquilizers or he does. But maybe you have some advice for me.
Well, when it comes to tranquilizers, some of the good ones are Xanax and, Valium. No, just kidding. Advice about the dog barking, okay? First of all, it doesn't matter what the behavior is. A couple things that I want to say is that if a dog is allowed to continue to rehearse the behavior, it's going to continue to be reinforced. So I'm guessing, Kathy, that this has been going on for a while with your Cavapoo. Your Cavapoo, you said, is 18 months old. Dogs typically start their excessive barking, other than play and for attention, when they get to be about 6 to 9 months of age. So I'm guessing this has been going on for at least 9 months. Yes? No?
Well, yes, but we've tried many different techniques. We have one of those buzzers, and he does stop barking for a minute, but then he goes right back to it. I do have a word I use that he responds to, but nothing sticks for very long.
Yeah. And there's a couple reasons sometimes why things don't stick. Two things. One can be timing, and we'll get into that a little more. And the other thing is, a lot of times owners are not correcting a behavior, they're interrupting a behavior. And let me talk just briefly what's the difference. Interrupting a behavior is something that, just like the word says, it interrupts the behavior, but there's nothing unpleasant about it. The dog really doesn't care. You just got the dog's attention. You interrupted them. They go back into it. Now, oftentimes we think some of the things we're doing, is a correction. I've watched owners tell their dog no, but the tonality they used, the volume that they used, it was almost pleasant sounding. And so that wasn't a correction for the dog. And then certain dogs have very soft personalities and temperaments. You barely look at them and they fall apart. And then there's other dogs that have a really hard personality. You could give them a really harsh correction and they think it's a game and they want to come back for more. So you have to watch and see how your pet responds to corrections, or what we think are corrections, and make sure you're not just interrupting the behavior. When we're dealing with a barking problem, and especially the one that's going on in the house with the TV, barking at cartoons and animals and lunging. We've got a dog that's highly, highly reactive there. One of the things that we have to do is teach the dog to do something that would be incompatible with barking. So, for example, let's say, does your dog like toys?
Yes.
Okay. What's your dog's favorite toy?
Sorry, can you say that again?
What's your dog's favorite toy?
Probably a rubber bone that we play fetch with.
Okay. If playing fetch with that rubber bone is more fun and more interesting than going and barking at the animals on TV, the dog's going to go for the bone. But in some cases, that's not going to be enough, okay? So you can try to play with them with an object they like, and if you do that consistently, when that trigger's there, eventually when that trigger comes, they'll want to go ahead and play. For example, I've got my dog that wanted to bark at the neighbors, and every time he wanted to bark, I threw a toy. It went after the toy, and we had a lot of fun. And now whenever the dog hears the neighbors next door and wants to bark, it goes and gets its toy. Well, the toy's in its mouth. It can't have the toy in its mouth and bark at the same time. But you've got to be very, very, very consistent with that. You've got to be not just reactive in trying to do that when there's a problem, but you've got to be proactive. Turn that TV on. If you have to, get a DVD if you still have a DVD player and play Beverly Hills Chihuahua or something like that. But play it at very, very low volumes, okay? You're going to desensitize your dog to it. And also there's a brightness feature on the TV. Take that brightness feature and bring it down lower. Volume's low, the brightness is low. That's now not as stimulating for your dog. And you can begin that process then of playing with your dog. Do that for a while until your dog pays absolutely no attention to the TV. If your dog wants to pay attention to the TV, you might need to turn the volume down a little more, turn the brightness down. Get to the point where your dog will engage with you and play. Do that for about a week, and then go and turn the volume up a little bit, and then go ahead and turn the brightness up a little bit. But you need to practice this about 2 minutes every day, 5 days a week. I'll give you 2 days off. And this might take weeks before you get to the point where the volume can be up at a normal volume, the brightness can be at a normal brightness, okay? So that's some of the things that you need to do. When it comes to the flip side, okay, yeah, we can correct the dog. I want you to try what I said first, but the other thing you could do, put a collar, put a leash on your dog when your dog begins to bark gently.
Okay, so let me tell you this, Tim. Sometimes we turn off the volume altogether and have the closed captions.
Yeah.
And it's still the same thing.
The brightness on the television.
If he sees an animal or cartoon on that TV, he goes wild.
Kathy, remember I said about the brightness though, but remember I said the brightness too, okay? Because then it's not the volume issue, at least initially. It's the sight issue. Well, you can desensitize your dog by bringing the brightness down. Okay, and then little by little bringing that up until your dog gets used to it and it's not an issue. Now, let's talking about correction. I'm going to finish up here because we're going to have to go to a break in a second, but you can put a collar on your dog, put a leash on your dog. Your dog starts to bark very slowly and gently. Lift up on that leash. You're going to put a little pressure underneath your dog's neck. Don't hang the dog. We don't want this to be crazy. The front paws can be a little bit off the ground. When your dog stops barking, lower it slowly. Dog starts barking again, slowly lift up, put a little pressure on that leash and collar.
Okay.
As you're putting that pressure, I want you to say quiet, quiet, quiet. As soon as your dog stops barking, you lower it. Whenever your dog's in a situation and your dog doesn't bark, I need you to reward the dog. And you need to be proactive. Put your dog in situations where you have the opportunity to practice this proactively rather than having to just do it reactively. So go ahead and give that a shot. Okay. I believe, do we have another caller online? We've got Helen in Mesa. Helen, welcome to Pet Talk today. How can we help you?
Good morning. I adopted a Chipit. She was only 5 to 6 weeks. Okay, so I fed her and got her. She's now 4.5 months. And her issue is not only she's a puppy, but at random, okay, when you go to pick her up, she's about 7 pounds right now.
Okay.
When you go to pick her up, she will literally flip out and start biting. Okay. There's times when you go to set her down, she will do it. It's not a consistent thing.
Okay.
And I'm concerned that if I'm not walking with her and I have to pick her up for our protection or to cross the street or whatever, she's going to do that and get both of us injured.
Yeah, you got a tough situation there. How long have you had How long have you had her?
I got her at, they said she was 8 weeks, but the vet said she was probably more like 5 or 6 weeks because I adopted her from somebody's backyard. And, she is the, quote, 2 types of dogs, Chihuahua and Pit Bull, so she's a little hard-headed, okay? But she's very, very loving.
Sure.
It's just, so, for example, she's here and she wants you to pick her up and everything's great, okay? Or I'm going to walk out back and I pick her up, set her down. Well, the next time I pick her up, she'll literally thrash her body trying to get to you, to bite you.
Got it. And let me ask you this. Any other peculiar behaviors with her?
She is not a barker at all. She's very good like that. She is very toy possessive, not food aggressive, not anything but toy possessive. And she does not, and this has been since the beginning because I talked to the vet about this, she will bite. She doesn't nip at you like a puppy when she's playing. When she's mad, she'll lunge for you and bite.
And is that just with picking her up or setting her down and with toys?
Yes.
Okay. How does she do with strange people?
Oh, she loves everybody. She loves dogs. She loves cats. There's nothing that's people, it's just that moment.
Yeah. Anything in the environment that makes her anxious or nervous?
Well, there's myself, and I have a 40-year-old disabled son. So he's, we're very quiet. We're very laid back. There's not a lot of noise, and she gets plenty of exercise. She learned to walk on her harness at about, 7 or 8 weeks. I took her out, and so she's very, very good like that. She will not come to her name at all.
Okay. So name recognition. Do you think she knows her name?
She knows it. She just doesn't come to it.
Okay.
She's one when you tell her no, like you can't do that, don't do that, stop, she will look at you and do it anyways. And if I go no and use my hands, I'll gently push her back.
Helen, I got to go to break. I want you to hold on. When we come back from break, we're going to go ahead and explain exactly how you can deal with that problem. But we've got to go to news. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll be taking more of your calls.
Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, sharing funny tales about your four-legged fur babies, answering questions, some even ridiculous, and taking your calls. It's Pet Talk Today with your host, Will Bangura. To have your questions answered or to comment on today's show, call the KFNX listener line at 602-277-5369. 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of Phoenix call toll-free 866-536-1100. Now, back to Pet Talk Today with your host and everyone's favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining us, I'm Will Bangura, and you are listening to Pet Talk Today on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX, where we take your calls and answer your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Before we went to news, we were talking with Helen. Helen's in Mesa, and Helen's got a Chippet, and her Chippet is biting her when she picks it up, when she sets it down. And we've got some other issues. Helen, I had mentioned to you, thanks for staying with us, by the way.
No.
When we're dealing with things like this, all right, you have to think about, how can I make things smaller? Because it's really big for the dog. It's a big deal for you to pick up the dog. It's a big deal for you to set the dog down. And so when I say things are big and we've got to make them small, I'm saying, okay, what is the process of picking up the dog? Well, before you pick up the dog, you're bringing your hands towards it. Maybe you're leaning over, bending down. Then you've got to actually put your hands and touch the dog, and then you rise the dog or lift the dog up from the ground. So what we're going to do is we're going to start taking each one of those steps, and we're going to start exposing it to the dog and giving it a food reward. So for example, I might bend over the dog as if I'm going to pick it up and say, good dog, give it a treat. And I might do that 10, 15 times a day for a week. And then after that, the next week, I'm going to go ahead and bend down and move my hands down towards the dog. I'm not going to touch the dog. And then when I move my hands down towards the dog, I'm going to say, good dog, I'm going to give it a treat. And I'm going to do that for about a week. And then I'm going to, go ahead.
Oh, she's biting at my pants as I'm walking in. So, for example, like she's doing that. She's a puppy. She's playing, right?
There's nothing you can do right now other than you're going to make her bite more, or you're going to get your relationship with her ruined. Because the thing is, we've got to desensitize this. What we don't want is her to engage in the behavior. So we're breaking down the different things that we're doing, the triggers. And so let's say in part of that process of bending over or reaching towards the dog to pick it up, she starts getting aggressive. Well, you went too far too soon. Back up your steps. But you got to reward a lot. You got to expose a lot and a lot. Then the next step might be just touching the dog very lightly for a half a second and taking your hands off and rewarding the dog, and doing that every day as you bend down and bring your arms down, doing that 10, 15 times a day, and doing that for about a week. And then you add, the next step would be maybe adding a little more touch pressure to the dog and quickly rewarding and getting used to touch pressure. And then it would be, once your dog's okay with that, you're going to spend a lot of time then just picking up a half an inch and setting the dog down right away and rewarding. Up a half inch, set down. But you've got to break this down into little bitty baby steps. That's called gradual and systematic desensitization. Okay?
Okay.
And then the other,
now,
go ahead.
How about when I go to try to stop her? You know, I mean, I know certain things are puppy and she's playing, but when you go to, for example, I'll use my hand and say no, and push her back, just a little bit, right? She will growl first at you.
Yeah.
Okay. If you do it again, she'll bite.
Right. And so your dog feels threatened by that, okay? And one of the things that, you're going to have to do is you're going to have to add something to that. If you've got to have your dog running around with a leash on to give you leverage, all right, to give a little bit of a correction. But the other thing you need to do, okay, and I'm going to have to take another call, so I'm going to ask you to listen, hang up and listen.
Yeah, I've been listening all morning.
But I'm going to finish up with this, so I appreciate the call. But the other thing that you need to do, and folks, anybody that's got a dog that's biting, you got to begin to condition them to wear a muzzle. Don't just slap a muzzle on and put it on there. Hey, put some yummy treats in that muzzle, have them stick their snout in it and eat some treats out of there for about a week. Do that every day. Then put it on and buckle it and take it off and give a reward. Put it on, buckle it, give it a reward. Take as much time as you need to get your dog comfortable with that muzzle. But if you got a biting dog, you got to get a muzzle for your dog. We've got a couple more callers on the line. I know we've got Destiny in Tullison. I believe she's next. Destiny, welcome to Pet Talk today. How can we help you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I adopted a cat last year around August. She was about almost a year in October. So she's around a year and a couple of months. And so with her behavior, I've noticed, not with any other cat, that her litter box, she flings everywhere.
So she's getting in there and really flinging everything when she's in there?
Yes.
Got it. Can I give you the simplest fix for that?
I can try, yeah.
Okay.
Go
You
for
ever
it.
seen those litter boxes that have a little cover and they got an entranceway so they can actually get in there?
Yep, we actually have one of those, and she tends to fling everything out still.
Out of where the opening in the hole is. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Have you tried moving the litter box to a different location?
Yep.
Okay.
And she still does it.
She continues to do that. Okay. So this is what I want you to do. Okay. You're going to have to start following her to that litter box. Okay. And as soon as she's done going, okay, what I want you to do is, does she like toys? Like, a flirt pole where you got a toy on a pole with a string and you move it back and forth real quick? Does she enjoy that, go after things like that? Have you tried ever playing with her?
She doesn't go after that, but she has little balls that have bells in them.
Okay. And, what I would do is as soon as she's done going, I would just go ahead and not crazily, but quietly try to get her attention a little bit. My hope is that she might do a little bit of burying, but not go crazy, and you can get her out of there with a lure. But you can't try to lure her out there when she's going. So as soon as she finishes, you're going to lure her out either with a toy, with food or something like that. And you're going to need to do that, probably for a couple weeks. But what you've got to do is interrupt that behavior. If she continues to go to the litter box and you continue to interrupt her when she's done and she doesn't have the ability to do that, and you do that long enough daily, the behavior will extinguish, because behaviors only continue when they're rehearsed, and there's a reinforcer for that, okay?
Okay.
I would give that a shot. The other thing that I would do, how many litter boxes do you have for your cat?
We have two. We
have
have
two.
One that is enclosed and another one that really isn't enclosed.
Okay. I would, in addition to what I'm saying, move them around a little bit, and also, if you're not doing this, clean them daily. And not only get that litter out of there, but then wash them down with a solution such as Nature's Miracle that really, really gets all the smell out of there. And give that a shot, okay? Try that. See what happens. But don't give up too soon. Sometimes it can take, a month, 2 months. But if you work with it daily, I guarantee it'll get better. Next, I believe we've got on the line holding Jean in Yuma. Hey, Jean, welcome to Pet Talk today. How can we help you?
Hi, Will. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Jean. What's going on?
Listen, my granddaughter, we have 3 dogs. Well, my family has 3 dogs. My granddaughter just brought home recently a Chihuahua. We know the mother is a Chihuahua.
Uh-huh.
Not sure what the other breed is, but I'm telling you, when she first brought her home, her legs and her body and her hair were so long, I thought, gee, she looks like an Irish wolfhound, but blonde.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's got really long legs. She's a really good dog. She's a very fast learner. I can teach her something, and about 5 times into it, like sex or sit or, she learns it really fast. My issue with her is she chews everything. She cannot, when it's time to go outside, she'll come in, she'll get in my face to let me know she has to go outside. So I let her go outside. Her and the other 2 dogs, they go outside. But on the way out, she has to pick something up off of the floor
to
take out.
Okay.
So, and of course, she's very meticulous. Any stuffed animal any stuffed toy that we had, she doesn't just chew a hole in it and unstuff it. She takes it apart at the seams.
Mm-hmm.
And unstuffs it. She takes the little squeaker out. She doesn't chew the squeaker up, but then she carries that rag thing around with no stuffing in it.
Sure.
So I bought her the hard rubber, like Kong bone,
Mm-hmm.
Thinking maybe she was teething and all that stuff. She's got about 3 or 4. She's got the ones that you stuff food in and the ones that have the little nubs on it. But I want you to know that I can go out and clean up the backyard, rake everything up, pick it all up and all that, and she will find something. And before she comes in, there's something else chewed up in the yard.
Sure.
Like she has two outdoor extension cords, chewed them into pieces. I don't know what else to do except to muzzle her.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Jean, there's a lot that we can do about that, and we're going to talk about that next. I've got to go take a break so I can hear from our sponsors. But, Jean, hold on the line, because when we come back, I'm going to go ahead and talk about how you can stop this annoying chewing problem. I'm your host, Will Bangura, and you're listening to Pet Talk Today on 1100 KFNX, where we're taking your calls and answering your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Right now, we've got to go ahead and take a break, but when we come back, we'll be joining Jean and taking more of your calls. Don't go anywhere.
Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, sharing funny tales about your four-legged fur babies, answering questions, some even ridiculous, and taking your calls. It's Pet Talk Today with your host, Will Bangura. To have your questions answered or to comment on today's show, call the KFNX listener line at 602-277-5369. 602-277-KFNX. Those outside of Phoenix call toll-free 866-536-1100. Now, back to Pet Talk Today with your host and everyone's favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining us, I'm Will Bangura, and you are listening to Pet Talk Today on the Pulse of Arizona, 1100 KFNX, where we take your calls and answer your pet behavior and training questions each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. We're going to go ahead and head right back to the phone. Before we went to break, we were talking to Jean, and Jean's got a dog, or I think it's maybe your granddaughter's dog, that likes to chew up everything, right?
Yes.
Yes. Let me tell you how you're going to deal with this. And folks, anybody else that's listening, any unwanted behavior problem, there's two things that have to happen, and usually we're only doing one. There's the reacting to it, right? They offer the behavior on their own, and we react to it. We do whatever we do. We interrupt, we correct, whatever we're doing. It's working, it's not working. The thing that we don't do, that we need to do, is teach what we don't want them to do by being proactive. Because dogs need repetition. They need repetition in close succession. So what we want to do, okay, is put out the items that the dog wants to go after. But we got to be smart about it. We need to have a collar on the dog. We need to have a leash on the dog. We need to bait and kind of tease the dog with the item. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of light, slow upward pressure on the leash. We've got to correct the dog. We've got to create something unpleasant. So when the dog goes for the item, you're going to put a little upward pressure. You're going to say, leave it. And then you're going to slowly lower that leash again. And then you're going to go ahead and bait the dog again with one of the things that it likes to put in its mouth. You're going to really try to get the dog to go for it. And when it does, you're going to go ahead and lift that leash up lightly, put a little pressure on the collar, and you're going to say, leave it. And you're going to lower it again. Now, on the third time you bait the dog, if the dog continues to go for it, the dog's telling you that correction is not a correction. The dog doesn't care. It's benign. So what do? When you lift up and put pressure on that leash and collar, you're going to hold the dog up there a little bit longer. You're going to increase the time. We've got to balance something unpleasant enough, and corrections, let the dog determine what level of correction. You watch it. If it does it once, does it twice, okay. But if you bait the dog 3 times in a row and it goes for it the third time, it's not a correction. You need to make it a little bit firmer. Now, while you're doing this, when you're presenting and baiting your dog with these items, when your dog doesn't take the bait, you need to be rewarding your dog with the highest food reward you possibly can give your dog. Whatever it might be, chicken, steak, cheese, I don't care. But you've got to reward the fact that your dog didn't take the bait. Then you've got to be proactive and do this in different locations, outside, inside, in one room, in another room. You're going to do that for each and every item, whether it be rocks, leaves, socks, remote controls, I don't care what it is. And then lastly, As far as that stuffed animal, stop giving the dog stuffed animals. Your dog has already shown you it's just as happy carrying around that fabric carcass with no stuffing in it, okay? You can go and buy those without any stuffing. So go ahead, do that, and give that a try. Give that a shot, and give us a call back. Let us know if that helped you out. We're going to go back to the phones. We've got Mary in Sun City West. Mary, welcome to Pet Talk today. How can we help you?
Yeah, I have a 13-year-old cat that just recently started biting me hard while I'm sleeping between 3 and 5 a.m.
Okay. When you say this just started happening, how long ago?
Well, he's had a bunch of loss. I had another cat that was here that I had to put down.
How long ago?
And then this was the cat. Well, I put the cat down on the 18th of November, and then the next day my husband died. So he has 2 losses to deal with.
And I'm so sorry for your loss with that. That's tough.
Thank you. And shortly after that, he started biting me to wake me up, and almost, like one night he redlined on me. He was going to attack me no matter what.
Sure.
While I'm sleeping, and so obviously I'm not doing anything to provoke it. I'm sleeping.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. I've gone online and searched under Jackson Galaxy, the cat daddy, and he's all the things that I would normally do when something bites me. He tells you not to do.
Yeah. Got it.
Don't push it away. Don't hit it. Don't yell at it.
Sure.
So, what kind of a deterrent do you do while you're sleeping?
Well, here's the first thing, okay, and you kind of nailed it on the head. Your cat had 2 very, very significant losses, okay? And unlike humans who can use logic, reason, critical thinking, okay, we can process these losses. Even though, obviously, and you know this better than anybody, there's that long grieving process, and every person handles grief in a very different, very unique way, and the same thing with animals, okay? And it's traumatic. And one of the first things that you need to do, there's a couple things, because, we see this a lot. This is not a new novel thing. This happens, okay? This is something that happens. Yeah, not every single cat, not every single dog, not every single pet, but this is something that can happen. And when it's that severe, when the emotions of the cat have been altered like that because of the loss, and they don't know how to handle it, and they don't know how to handle that grief, and you're the only thing that's there for them to, act out. It's kind of like children. Sometimes children can experience loss in let's say divorce, and then one of the parents is taken away, and very young children oftentimes will have temper tantrums. And they don't know how to express their pain, but they get angry. And this can happen with animals as well. The first thing that I want you to do is I want you to make an appointment with your veterinarian. Okay?
Yeah, I've already done that. I've ran, urine tests and blood tests, and everything worked out fine.
Well, we want to go ahead and rule out all those things, but the reason I want you to see your veterinarian is because your cat needs to be on Prozac right now. Okay, that's the medication that we use for things like that. And just like people, they need help. Cats do too. For cats, the dosage for Prozac, or the generic fluoxetine hydrochloride, is 0.5 milligram for every kilogram of weight that your cat has. So that's, if you took, I was going to say, hey, take the cat, rule out any medical stuff, but, I didn't think we would find anything there. I think the main thing is that we're, dealing with this trauma, this horrible grief. Your cat doesn't know what to do with it. And, in situations like this, like I said, when they're severe like that, and it's not every cat, it's not every dog, but it happens. Just like people, they need behavioral medicine as well. So, contact your vet and go ahead and, mention that to them. Most vets are pretty good about prescribing it. Hopefully they don't make you have to make an appointment with a veterinary behaviorist. Really difficult. We've got one in the Valley, Dr. Kelly Moffitt. She's great, in Mesa, but, typically you can't get an appointment with her for about 4 months because she is the only, veterinary behaviorist. But, that's what I suggest that you do, is go ahead and, make an appointment with your vet. It takes about 4 weeks for the medication to really kick in, so don't evaluate the therapeutic benefit of it until your cat's been on that for about a month. We are just about out of time, and I thank you for your call and everybody else that called today with your questions. Be sure not to miss an episode of Pet Talk Today by subscribing to the Pet Talk Today podcast, which has a complete archive of all of the Pet Talk Today live radio shows. Also, keep up to date on what's happening next on Pet Talk Today by visiting and liking the Pet Talk Today Facebook page. If you've got questions or ideas for future shows, you can email me at will@pettalktoday.com. Don't go anywhere. Next, after the news, is the Safe Money Radio Show with Angie Samuels. We'll see you next week, Saturday at 9 o'clock.
News, talk, sports. The pulse of Arizona. 1100 KFNX, Phoenix.